I'm Dr. Ken Landa. Let's talk about Namenda. Namenda was approved in 2003 for treatment of moderate to severe Alzheimer's disease. Now, it's important to realize that the drug is not for mild Alzheimer's disease or mild dementia or even moderate dementia. Probably not as effective as even taking a vitamin E pill for those conditions. It's used off-label in a significant number of people. Estimated maybe half of the people with mild disease are taking the pill for which it's not going to help and for which it's associated with significant number of side effects. What is Alzheimer's disease? It's a condition that's associated with a decrease in memory and thinking and decision-making and reasoning, and it's associated with changes in the personality, so that the person becomes anxious or abusive or agitated or even delusional. We make the diagnosis on the basis of the score of a written test that has 38 items, the Mini Mental Status Examination, or MMSE, and we look at the score and decide if a person has dementia. Now, we have to rule out stroke and a variety of other serious conditions, but assuming the person does have moderate to severe dementia, the dose of Namenda starts off at 5 milligrams once a day for a week, and then you slowly, over the period of the next 4 weeks, increase the dose to 10 milligrams twice a day, either as a tablet or as a solution. It can be taken with or without food. Is it effective? Even for the target group of people, no, it's not very effective. It's certainly not a cure. Doesn't prevent worsening of the deterioration of your cognitive function, and it may only minimally delay the inevitable. It's associated with a significant number of side effects that can be significantly troublesome. That can cause confusion and sleeplessness, can cause vomiting and dizziness and headache, can cause constipation, can cause backache, and it can cause a slow heart rate, heart block, and convulsions. Less frequent, it can cause a problem with shortness of breath and even hallucinations. After it was marketed, it was found that it was associated with, not necessarily cause and effect, but certainly was associated with agranulocytosis, where your blood cells aren't formed. The white cell count can fall significantly, congestive heart failure or pancreatitis or hepatitis, or people thinking about suicide. You can't take the drug if you're taking a cough syrup, say with dextromethorphan, or if you have Parkinson's disease and you're taking amantadine. The way the drug acts is it blocks the stimulation of a receptor in the brain that's stimulated by an overabundance of an excitatory amino acid called glutamate. It also has several other methods of action inside the brain, but it's important to realize it does not slow further neurodegeneration. And fortunately, it doesn't block the action of other drugs that are used to treat Alzheimer's disease. Drugs like Aricept. It's used in moderate to severe disease, and in those people for whom it's directly indicated, it only works a teeny-weeny little bit, and probably only on a statistical basis, but not on a meaningful clinical basis. It might not even be as good as a placebo. There's no meaningful improvement in cognitive ability or global response or daily function or even the behavior or the quality of life taking this drug. Now, the sponsor of the drug says that it seems to work, and some of the studies that they propose suggest that it works a little teeny-weeny bit, but when we look at company non-sponsored studies, well, those studies don't seem to show that it does much good at all. Well, the company asked the Food and Drug Administration in 2005 for approval to treat all ranges of dementia, mild and moderate severe, and severe dementia. But the Food and Drug Administration looked at the available evidence and said, you know, it doesn't seem to work. No, you can't have the indication for those purposes. Now, what the company did was came out in 2010 with Namenda XR. That's a 1-a-day dose instead of a 2-a-day dose. And again, you slowly increase the amount a person's taking. You start off at 7 milligrams, and then over the course of a month, you increase up to 28 milligrams. There's no study that looked at the correlation between taking the Namenda and the Namenda XR to see that they really are equivalent. But remember, neither of them is thought to work very well. And it's interesting that once they got approval in 2010, what they did is they thought in early 2014 that they ought to discontinue the regular Namenda so that everybody had to be switched to the Namenda XR before generic drugs became available. And they were going to stop production of the drug later that year in 2014. But the Attorney General in New York said, not so fast. He sued the company and actually won. Well, the generics came available, but the company was successful in switching most of the people to the 1-a-day dose. And because people are relatively lazy, they take the 1-a-day dose of the branded medicine rather than the much less expensive generic preparation that's now available. Well, now they're going to market something called Namzaric. Namzaric is a combination of the Namenda and the active ingredient called Aricept. That's a medicine that's been available for a long time for Alzheimer's, for mild to moderate disease. Now, it's important to realize that most people who have Alzheimer's or have dementia are taking multiple drugs. It's estimated that probably around 70% of the people take Namenda and one of the older medicines, a medicine like either Exelon or Aricept. And as a matter of fact, a significant number of people who have mild dementia, as I mentioned a moment ago, are taking the drug, taking the Namenda, for which there is absolutely no indication. Now, Consumer Reports looked at the drugs and said, you know, there's actually no meaningful benefit in people taking these drugs. And the Agency for Healthcare Quality and Research, they evaluated the situation and they said, we're not finding a whole lot of benefit. And in the New England Journal of Medicine, they did a study and they looked at the combination of Namenda and Aricept, which is what Namzaric is, and they found that that wasn't significantly of any benefit. And the Public Citizen, which is a nonprofit organization in Washington, D.C., they have the drug listed as of May 2016 on their list of do not take drugs. And an expert panel in the New England Journal in 2008 evaluated the situation, and they said, you know, there are an awful lot of people who are taking these drugs and they're not meaningful, they're not helping, but they keep taking them forever and ever, so they ought to stop at some point in time. And in Europe, the regulatory authorities say, you know, Namenda shouldn't be on the market, but there was such a big furor when that occurred, when they ruled against the drug, and that was in 2005, that they had to put it back on the market. But they did it, and they said, you know, it's an optional drug for severe Alzheimer's only, and they don't think that it works very well, at least as far as cognitive improvement or global improvement or functional improvement. In the United States, as I mentioned, about 50% of the people who have mild Alzheimer's disease are taking the drug, and it's totally ineffective according to the regulatory authorities. And for mild to moderate disease, well, another significant percentage are taking the drug. But again, no significant improvement. Well, why is it important? It's important because it's so doggone expensive. It's extremely expensive. If you go take Namenda, it costs about $13 a day. If you take the generic form of the drug, it costs about $13 a month. If you take the Namenda XR, again, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month. And they're raising the price, even though it doesn't cost them any more to make the drug basically now than it did a year ago or 2 years or 3 years ago. But the company that manufactures it continues to increase the cost. And Namzaric, well, that's about $400 a month. Is it money well spent? Well, the overwhelming majority of scientific evidence suggests these drugs don't do very much. So if you have a loved one who's taking them, I'd suggest you do some research. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Dr. Ken Landau.